In this example, we're going to be evaluating and solving this function that we have graphed below. And so when we're working with a graph, I just want to point out that the horizontal axis represents the inputs and the vertical axis represents the outputs. Okay, so horizontal inputs, or the x values in this case, and the vertical axis, okay, is here, and that represents our y values, or the outputs. And that's going to be important because if we're able to, figure out what the question is asking us, where we're given an input or an output, then it makes it easier to solve or evaluate the function. So in function notation, just to repeat, we can write it as f of some input. The input is always inside the parentheses, is equal to some output. So in this case, it says f of x equals -1. So we should recognize, based on this format, that we've been given an output of -1. And if we're given the output, it means we want to solve for the input x. So we're solving in this case, not evaluating. We have an input. We want to find what input gives us an output of -1. And so what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to go to my graph then. So if I know output is -1, I want to go to my output, which is the vertical axis here, and I want to go down until I find -1. And then I want to travel over whichever way I go until I hit the graph. So I'm going to go here, and then I can read off the graph what input gives me an output of -1. Okay, that's -2, -1. So f of 2 is equal to -1. When I have an output of -1, I have an input of 2. All right, so let's go to the next example. I want to figure out, am I evaluating or solving? Remember, again, in function notation, the thing inside the parentheses is my input is equal to some output. So f of 0 equals, well, the thing inside the parentheses is the input. So I know that I have 0 as my input. So when the input equals 0, I want to evaluate or find the value of the output. So I'm evaluating here. I'm not solving. I'm given the input. I want to find the value of the output. So what I want to do is I want to read this graph. Okay, my inputs are on the horizontal. So I want to find when the input is 0 right here. And then I want to travel up to find where do I hit the graph. So when my input is 0, I land on the graph where my output is 3. So if I write that in function notation, notation just means I'm writing it in this shorthand. When I input 0, f of 0, I get an output of 3. I could also write that as an ordered pair. 0, 3 relates right to this point on the graph. Same thing up here. I could shorten this if I want to write it as an ordered pair. I input 2, I output -1. So function notation, ordered pair, graphically here.